Now, for more on the donors conference underway in Geneva, we can bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Good to see you, Philip. Firstly, the Taliban has been in control for a month now. Just how bad has the humanitarian situation in the country really become?
Well, it was very bad even before the Taliban took power, but the problem now is, of course, that it's been exacerbated by the fact that international aid has stopped flooding into the country, and the Taliban have not been recognised by the international community as a legitimate government. So that means it's having a knock-on effect on the population of Afghanistan, who are not receiving that international aid that they so badly need. Now, this conference is only running for half a day. It's happening right now. There's going to be a press conference a little bit later on this afternoon where we'll find out exactly what the plans are. But what Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, has said is that Afghanistan needs $606 million worth of humanitarian aid urgently to offset the situation in the country, which is going from bad to worse. I'll give you a few figures if you like, Delano. 550,000 people have been displaced in Afghanistan since the arrival or the arrival of the Taliban in power. Critical food and livelihood assistance is needed for between 11 and 18 million people, and half of children under 5 are now facing acute malnutrition. So the situation is going from bad to worse. And on top of that, if that wasn't enough, the country is having to cope with a drought which is affecting about 80% of Afghanistan. That means crops are not growing, people are not getting food that they could produce themselves. And there, of course, is the COVID-19 pandemic, which is also creating a lot of damage around the country and causing many people to die. There is a lack of vaccines. There's a lack of vaccines being given out to the population. So the situation in Afghanistan was bad before the Taliban took power, but it has got a lot worse since they took power on the 15th of August.
And the UN also has a fine balancing act to do, because at one point you do want to help the people of Afghanistan, but you don't want to empower the Taliban by handing out cash to them.
Well, that is also a big problem. And if you look at the reaction from the international community, notably from the United States, from Britain, from the European Union, they say they're not going to give access to funds to the Taliban until the Taliban prove that they are honest in what they're promising to do. In other words, respect human rights for women and also human rights in general in the country. And
on the eve of this conference, they said that the formation of the government was not inclusive. Surprise, surprise.
Yes, exactly. And so there's this waiting game as to what is the Taliban going to do. Is it going to be judged on its acts and not only on its words? So there has been some action. Qatar, where the Taliban have always had an office during the years when they were not in power, has an influence over them. There's been a meeting this afternoon between the Qatari foreign minister and the French foreign minister, Jean-Yves Le Drian. They say that they call on the Taliban to respect the rights of women and human rights in general in the country. And the UN Human Rights Commissioner Michelle Bachelet has also said she's upset by the lack of diversity in Afghanistan and called on the Taliban to respect its promises. We'll see whether that has any effect. But in the meantime, of course, we are facing this terrible situation for the people of Afghanistan, who are the innocent, silent victims of a situation over which they have no control, and who are really desperately crying out for that international aid they so desperately need to be able to live.
Philip, thank you very much for that. Philip Turle there.